Hey everyone, Dax Nolan here. Welcome to Next Game Playbook.
And I'm Naomi Kale. Hello.
This is the place where strategies, big ideas, and insights all come together. We're here to help you creators, innovators, founders, basically anyone looking to succeed in their next big move.
That's what we aim for.
Absolutely. And hey, right off the bat, if you like what you hear today, please do us a quick favor. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe. The drill: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. It really helps us out.
It does indeed.
So let me ask you something, just straight up. Have you ever felt kind of stuck? Like you're repeating the same patterns, maybe making the same excuses, even when deep down you know better?
That feeling of being caught in a loop.
Exactly. Well, that's what we're going to explore today. We're looking at a really interesting article recently published on our site, nextgameplaybook.com.
It's called You Think You're Thinking, but You're Remembering. How to Trust Your Intuition and Break Mental Loops.
Yeah, it's quite the title. It really gets at this idea that unless we consciously interrupt things, our future just, well, it quietly becomes our past all over again.
That's the core idea we're unpacking.
Okay, so let's get into it. What's the main argument here? The foundation.
Well, essentially, the article argues that most of what we call thinking isn't actually, fresh analysis. It's more like remembering.
Remembering how so?
It's like a remix of old emotions, old fears, patterns that your nervous system has flagged as safe based on past experience.
Oh, okay. So the brain is like a pattern machine. It latches on to what worked before, or at least what didn't lead to disaster.
Precisely. And the key thing the article stresses is that the nervous system remembers what felt safe, not necessarily what was true or what led to growth. Survival over progress, basically.
Wow, okay. That explains a lot about overthinking then, when you're just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. The article puts it quite starkly. Overthinking isn't really analysis. It's more like rehearsing old patterns, old fears. You're just running the same program again and again.
So you're not actually figuring things out. You're just digging the groove deeper.
Pretty much. Real thinking, the kind that leads to breakthroughs or intuition, apparently starts when you interrupt that loop, when you break the automatic playback.
Okay, so our mission today, for everyone listening, is to figure out how we can challenge this internal programming, right? How do we move beyond just memory and start trusting, well, genuine intuition?
That's the goal. And the first piece of the puzzle, according to the source, has to do with speed.
Speed. How does speed play into it?
Well, the faster you react, the more likely you are to fall back on those old, conditioned responses. Speed is conditioning's best friend, you could say.
Ah, that makes sense. Like a reflex. You get triggered, you react instantly, and boom, you're back in the same old pattern.
Exactly. So the first practical step is actually to slow things down. Deliberately pause between the trigger and your response.
Okay, slow down. And then what? Did the article give specifics?
Yes. It suggests two things. First, consciously name the pattern when you feel it happening. Like actually say to yourself, okay, this is my avoidance loop kicking in, or there's that fear of failure pattern.
Giving it a label. I like that. Makes it less amorphous.
And second, ask yourself a critical question. Is this feeling, this thought, true right now, or is it just familiar?
Ooh, okay. True now or just familiar? That's powerful. That creates the gap, right? The pause you mentioned.
That's the idea. To separate the past echo from the present reality. That feeling of dread about a presentation might be familiar, but is it true now? Maybe this time you're prepared. Maybe the stakes are different. Intuition often lives in that distinction.
This ties right into something else. The article discusses how we rationalize these patterns. We often call it being logical or strategic thinking,
But the article argues it's often the ego just doing its primary job, ensuring safety. Not greatness, just safety.
So the ego dresses up fear as logic or makes hesitation sound like being realistic.
Yes. It's a defense mechanism. Think about it from a founder's perspective. The fear might say, what if this pivot fails spectacularly? That sounds logical, cautious.
Right. Very responsible sounding.
But the article suggests reframing it through what it calls intuitive courage. Asking instead, what if this potential failure is actually how I learn what's needed for the next stage? Or what if this is the necessary step regardless of comfort?
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Moving from fear-based what-ifs to growth-based what-ifs, it really highlights that growth always feels like a risk initially, doesn't it?
Always. Before it becomes confidence, it feels uncertain. And that's why, according to the piece, we'll never truly feel ready for the big leaps.
Because the ego flags uncertainty as danger. It will always find a logical reason to hit the brakes.
Exactly. So if you wait until you feel 100% confident and ready.
You'll be waiting forever. You'll miss the opportunity.
Wow. Okay. There's a line in there that really struck me too. Something about looking stupid.
Ah, yes. Until you're willing to look stupid, you'll never be free. Yeah, that one. Because taking that uncertain step, the one that contradicts the old safe pattern, might look foolish from the outside or even feel foolish internally.
But it's the only way to actually prove the old pattern isn't the only reality. It's the way you break the loop.
So this really challenges the idea of personality as something fixed then. If our reactions are just habits.
The article frames it exactly like that. It says, personality is just your most rehearsed behavior. It's not who you are fundamentally, it's what you do repeatedly. Identity is a habit.
Man, that lands hard. Think about how often we say, oh, that's just how I am.
It's the ultimate defense of the familiar pattern. It shuts down the possibility of change by framing the habit as core identity.
So if identity is a habit, how do you change it? The article wasn't just about thinking, right? It was about action.
Absolutely. The emphasis is heavily on doing different, not just thinking different. You can't just introspect your way into a new reality. You have to perform differently.
Perform differently, meaning
Meaning making small, deliberate micro changes in your behavior that actively contradict the old script. If your pattern is avoiding feedback, the action is seeking out one small piece of feedback today.
okay, so tiny actions that go against the grain.
Yes, it's about rewiring the pattern through action, which then gradually builds a different kind of intuitive sense, one based on new experiences, not just old memories. You act your way into a new way of being.
This makes sense, but there's another layer to this, isn't there? The article talked about the shadow. That sounded intense.
It is perhaps the most challenging part of the framework. The idea is summed up by the phrase, the shadow you ignore becomes the God you serve.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that. What's the shadow?
It refers to the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or dislike. Maybe it's aggression, maybe vulnerability, maybe a desire for control, maybe ambition. Traits we don't want to admit we have.
And ignoring them makes them our God.
How? The argument is that denied traits don't vanish. They operate unconsciously. They drive our behavior, often through projection.
Projection, like seeing those traits in other people.
Exactly. You might constantly criticize a colleague for being too competitive because you're denying your own competitive drive. Or you might try to fix someone's disorganization because you can't face your own.
Ah, I see. So you're reacting strongly to something outside because it mirrors something unacknowledged inside.
And this has huge implications for leaders, founders, anyone working in teams. If you're constantly triggered by someone.
The article suggests looking inward first, asking, what part of me feels exposed or activated by this?
Yes. And it also suggests paying attention to what you secretly admire or harshly judge in others. Those things often point directly to your own unclaimed power, the aspects of your shadow you haven't integrated.
So owning your shadow, like acknowledging those denied parts, actually helps intuition. That seems counterintuitive.
The logic is that it removes distortion. When you own your potential for aggression, you're less likely to mistake fear for wisdom. When you own your vulnerability, you're less likely to mistake judgment for truth. It leads to a clearer, less biased perspective, more intuitive clarity.
Okay. Wow, there was a lot there. It brings us to this final point in the article, which felt kind of profound, about judgment and revelation.
Yes, the idea that maybe there isn't some grand judgment after life, but rather a revelation of what you practice, what you became through your habits.
You become your habits, not just your beliefs or intentions. It's about the sum total of your actions, your reactions, your patterns.
Exactly. You don't get away with cutting corners or avoiding hard truths. You simply become the person who does those things. It's like sculpting your own soul, moment by moment, through your habitual actions.
Which loops back to intuition. Trusting your intuition, then, isn't just about gut feelings. It's about living with internal integrity, right? Making choices based on conscious awareness, not just reacting based on old programming or external rules.
That's the freedom it describes. Stopping the confusion. No longer mistaking patterns for personality or fears for logic or memories for the present reality. That's when you can actually start thinking in the true sense.
This is really practical stuff for anyone trying to build something new or make significant changes. Okay, before we wrap this thought, just a quick reminder, again, for everyone listening, if this is resonating, please hit subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you found us.
And definitely check out the original article on nextgameplaybook.com. It lays out all these steps and questions we've been discussing. You can reread it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter too. We send out weekly insights, often touching on this kind of stuff, self-trust, creativity, breaking patterns.
We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment on the article page or on the YouTube video. What was your biggest takeaway?
Oh, and they mentioned a related post too, didn't they? Something about gut feelings versus expert advice.
That's right. Trust your gut versus expert advice. Decoding when to follow intuition. Definitely worth checking out if you're grappling with that balance.
Great suggestion. Okay, so this has been a fascinating look at how our internal wiring shapes, well, everything.
I think the key takeaway is that intuition isn't some mystical force. It's simpler, perhaps. It's just the quiet, clear signal that's left when the noise of old memories and practiced fears finally subsides.
Hmm, love that. So maybe the final prompt for everyone listening is just this. Take a breath,
Mm.
pause, and ask yourself that question from the article. What's true right now?
A powerful place to start.
Absolutely. We love exploring these strategies and breakthroughs with you here on Next Game Playbook. We're always working on new explorations for creators, founders, innovators.
We hope you'll join us for the next one. Until then, focus on your next strategic move.
See you next time.